Besides being like a teacher or a doctor, Realtor's up there with that.
You're like an angel.
Yeah.
An angel.
We help people make money.
Welcome to another episode of Real Talk about real estate and real stuff.
With Realtors.
That's really, really fun.
Ooh. Good touch.
Little twist on the opening. All right. So I'm going to ask Kelsey a question. And she thinks I am going to have some input on this. So we'll see.
She never has input on anything.
I know. I just sit here like a little wallflower and keep my mouth shut. Okay. Here's the question.
Okay.
What do you wish you knew before you became a realtor? Does that seem like you have a lot to say on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Give it to me.
And she didn't surprise me with this question. I have prepared a couple things. Okay. So first thing, I think when you're young and you get into the business and you've never bought or sold a home, there's so much you don't know. And there's so much I think the general public doesn't know about what realtors actually do behind the scenes, what it takes to get a client, what it takes to keep a client, what it takes to negotiate. Like people kind of think our whole job is just writing a contract and negotiating repairs. And it's like, that's
showing
like
a house
and showing, that's the least of it really.
Showing the house. Yeah.
Yeah. Showing the house is like anyone could do that. But in negotiations, like, yes, you want to be good at that stuff too, but you can't write a contract and negotiate repairs without a client. And that's the hardest part, is getting clients. So I think the first thing is it's all about relationships. It's about communication. It's about creating, what's the word I'm looking for? Rapport with somebody. Like creating rapport out of thin air when you're cold calling on the telephone is really hard to do.
Very.
And it's hard. It's tedious to do day after day after day when you don't want to pick up the phone. So that's another thing, is like, there's definitely things that you're going to be doing every single day that you don't want to do, like cold calling. And I think people get into it and they're like, oh, I can cold call. And then you actually have to sit down and do it. And it's literally like, I remember being in college and having to sit down to write an essay. And it's just that daunting feeling. Like that's how it feels when you sit down to do your dials. You're like,
it's
okay.
worse than an essay.
It's
because
worse.
You're calling people that don't want you to call them.
Yeah. Like you're open to the rejection and you just have to say, okay, I'm just going to start. And then you kind of get into the flow after that. But having that day after day after day is really hard.
Yeah, that is
And it's a
hard.
big reason why people don't succeed in this business, is because they're not willing to take the rejection.
But I mean, I guess the question, it says what you wish you would have known. You'd still do it, knowing what you know now about that.
Yes, because there's more pros than cons for me. Like I love this job, but I wish I would have known about the cold calling, door knocking, the letters, like all that stuff I didn't even know.
How would that
I just
change?
didn't know wouldn't change anything. It's just what you wish you knew.
You wish, yeah.
I just wish I would have known that.
I guess I think when you, of that question, I wish I would have known this means then I wouldn't have done it. If I had known this, I wouldn't have done it. And I know that's not the case with you.
No,
right?
that's not.
It's just something you wish you would have been prepared for.
Yes.
Okay.
Or something like I would tell a realtor getting into the business, maybe what to expect.
Exactly.
But I think the overarching for that is it's all about relationships. I mean, if you have, like, for example, I had 3 friends buy a house from me last month. Like that doesn't happen that often, but you know, the bigger your circle is, the more when you have kids and you know all the baseball moms and they know you're in real estate and you're a good person, you talk to them, they might come to you.
Right.
And I think that the more close relationships, like genuine relationships you can build with people, the more business you'll have and the more referral business you'll have.
Yes. It goes back to that old fashioned word called trust.
Trust.
They trust you. They know you. They feel like you have their back and you're like them.
Yes. And they need to know that you actually do sell too. So
That you know what you're doing.
know what you're doing.
Right.
Okay. Another one I wrote down was, and this reminds me of college as well, is you always feel like you should be working. So like in college, I think about it's Saturday and you want to go out, but there's always homework you could be doing. There's always an essay you could start. Like there's always something. And that's how I feel. And maybe not everyone feels that way, but a lot of times in real estate, I'm like, well, I could be dialing or I could be doing this.
Yes. No, I agree.
And then you feel guilty for pushing it.
If you aren't doing an open house on the weekend, like you take a weekend off, and like that's what I used to do.
I could be doing open
or my
house.
dad would call me and say, this is when we used to advertise all the open houses in the newspaper. He'd say, I see you're not working this weekend. What are you doing? And I was like, oh, shit. Dad, I'm going out of town. Or there was
Yep.
always a reason, because I did open houses all the time, as I've told you guys a million times. But yes, if I wasn't doing something like that, I would feel like
you should
you feel like you're never off
Yes.
in real estate, because clients need you on weekends and evenings.
Yeah, which is fine. And I think a lot of people do know that getting into it. Like, that's the first thing we tell people is this is an evenings and weekends job. That's when other people are off, you're on. But it doesn't, you don't, unless you are in it and you're selling actively, you don't realize like how true that is and how much it can feel kind of taking away from your...
You know what though? I feel like people aren't working an 8 to 5 like they used to.
They're not, especially here locally.
Work from home.
Yeah.
So they can run out and go look at a house in the middle of the day. I feel like that's changed a lot over the last 10 years.
I agree with that.
Where it's not as big of a thing anymore, so it's not as much nights and weekends, but then you might be putting the contract together at night, or
working when you can because you have 3 kids and you got to work after they go to bed, or
exactly.
And I think during the COVID crazy market where we were putting a house under contract every other day, it felt like there were really strict timelines on when you had to get a contract in, or we have 3 offers on this house, you better show it in the next 5 minutes.
Right.
We have 10 offers on this house, more so. So that was more invasive even than like a client that needs to see a house at 5 or 6, like whatever, that happens every once in a while. But yeah, it was constant.
It was a lot of nighttime contract writing.
Which is also under that umbrella. It's hard to take time off. I think people think that, oh, I can take a vacation whenever I want, which is true. But then you have that thing where it's like, well, you may be in Hawaii, but you're still writing contracts.
Yes.
You need help. You need someone to help cover you. But like, I still wrote an offer when I was in Hawaii. And you also, again, like, or if you're me and you probably feel a little guilty about taking a vacation. Whereas when you have a normal job and you have 2 weeks every year, you are off. You are not working, and you do not feel guilty about taking a vacation.
Right, exactly. And you can lose 10 grand easily by going on vacation, by missing a sale. Well, I love what Steve Depp always says, his $10,000 glass of wine, like a phone call that he didn't pick up because he had a long day and he's sitting there having a glass of wine with his wife. And it's somebody that wants to see a house and he doesn't bother answering, because if you don't, they'll call the next realtor. I mean, hopefully some of us that have been in the business for a while, you, me, Deppa, they won't call the next realtor. And a lot of people on our team, they're not going to call the next realtor. They're going to
they understand that we have lives also and can't always answer the phone.
But if it's just like a random lead, they'll just call somebody else.
They'll call Zillow.
So you could be having a $10,000 glass of wine when you're
hurts my heart. Okay, the next one is, and this is huge, and it's kind of like, I don't even know if we can get into all of it right now, but when you're getting into real estate, whether you're freaking 18 years old or 22 fresh out of college, or you're 50, you're starting a business from scratch and you don't know anything. So like, join a team, get a mentor, but you need to have money in the bank for 6 to 12 months of living, because especially right now, you don't know when your first sale is going to be. But at the same time, you're building the business. So you're learning how to sell a house, how to negotiate, how to talk to clients. You're also trying to actively get clients by doing the things that we just talked about. And you're figuring out your marketing, you're figuring out your social media, you're figuring out where you need to spend, what things cost. I'm renting an office space. Like, I have a mentor. How much do I need to pay them? Like, you're starting a business, and people do not treat it like that. And they don't understand that either. Right.
I think, and even if you're on a team, you're still your own business. You get a lot of guidance from the team. It's kind of like, it's here's how to do it, but you are still your own
brand.
Exactly. Brand. Yep. Oh, okay.
Okay. Next up, this is like, I guess I wish I knew, but I kind of knew this, but I feel like I needed it imprinted a little bit more, is to get a coach right away and do everything they say because you pay a lot of money and they're going to tell you what to do. And the hardest part is actually doing it. But I think getting a coach and having that extra guidance is going to launch you a lot quicker than if you didn't have one and you're trying to figure out for yourself and you're like, you're just doggy paddling.
Right.
You're just trying not to sink. And it's, if you can get a coach and they're not super cheap, but figure out a way to do it, that's going to help just launch you just quicker. You'll just exceed in your business faster.
It's kind of like, I'm trying to think of an analogy of not having a coach. they basically help you set up your business, whether you're a single agent or on a team or building a team.
And you don't know what you don't know. So if they can tell you stuff that you don't know, like, I don't know, opening a tax savings account, and so you're not screwed when tax time comes, just certain things that they might like give you little nuggets and you're like, oh, I wouldn't have thought about that. Thank God.
Everything though, the social media,
everything.
all of it. I mean, the one thing I think that a coach doesn't get into is the contracts and things like that, but everything else.
No, they're there to help you obtain clients and do marketing, basically, right? And guide you through like things that are coming up, like the AI situation, and just keep up.
It's kind of like if you showed up to a job the very first day and no one was there to train you, and they're like, all right, you work here. This is what you do, but no one trained you. Like you get trained when you go to work somewhere. They show you how to work the cash register. They show you how to close, how to open, all the things. But it's just like, if you've never, ever done that before, and then you get thrown in it. Yeah, it's crazy.
100%. Okay, next one. It's really hard to be on your own. I've done both. I was on my own and I was with a team. And being on a team is it's a game changer. It's hard to build a business by yourself. Real estate can be very lonely. I know that there are brokerages, especially here in town, that have really strong camaraderie. And so if you can find like a brokerage that you love the people, and you can find your people within the brokerage and have that accountability like you did starting out, like you had your accountability partners and you guys helped each other, then that's one thing. But I think being on a team is just a better overall experience, especially as a newer agent, to help you get your, feet in it all.
Feet on the ground?
Feet on the ground?
I don't know. What's the term?
I can't think of a leg up.
A leg up.
Yeah.
Something to do with the body part. That's all we know. Something to do with the body part. And you know what? I go back to that where, Alice Zeisler and I would just sit there and like, all right, what are we going to do to get these houses sold? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? I also grew up in real estate. My mother was a realtor, so it was in my life constantly. So there was some of that through osmosis where most people don't have that, where it's just part of your DNA.
I didn't know the first thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a TC, so I saw what my mentor at the time was doing, but I didn't know there. And also in real estate, there's 20,000 different things you can do or try or be working on. So it's also helpful to like narrow it in. What is your focus? Get an accountability partner to help you make sure that you're doing the things say you're going to do. And I just think a team is a overall better way to go, especially at first. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that maybe you don't need to stay on a team for your whole career. Like maybe that's not where you want to stay, but it is where you should start and learn everything. And then I would say at least like 5 years on a team, and then you'll actually know if you feel like you can build your own business, because you know what goes on behind the scenes a little bit more.
Whether you want to
take that on.
Easy.
And then you get like distracted from your sales because now you're having to do all the things that the team did for you.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you just have to hire a TC and whatnot. And if you're starting a team, then you're involved in everything that your team is doing.
Yep.
So just time consuming, I guess, but
anywho, just that it's hard to be on your own. It's hard to be a single agent. It's lonely.
What's this emotional roller coaster?
Okay, so I was thinking about how you gain clients, you lose clients.
Yes.
You get an escrow, you lose an escrow. Yes. A client yells your head off, and a realtor yells at you.
Right.
It's just like it can be, and you're also guiding your client's emotions. And so for me, it's just about the experience. I've been there, done that a lot of times. And the more you do or go through those things, the easier it gets. But
it's real. It's real though. I mean, you're up, you're down.
Losing an escrow can be real tough, or losing a client.
Okay. And then the next day, something miraculous happens and you're on top of the world again. It's so crazy. You're within a couple days. Like, so now that you're a seasoned agent, it's a little bit more like, well, what do we call it? The 5-second funeral?
5-second funeral, step over the dead bodies.
Yeah, just move on. If people aren't, if they're canceling or if you're losing clients or whatever, you do have to go, oh, that sucked.
Yeah.
But then
it might not have been under your control, or maybe you can learn from that experience and you can think, what am I going to do differently?
Even if there's, nothing that you did wrong, you can still learn from it, but it's a waste of time to
dwell on it.
Yes. Just move on and get back on the phone.
It does suck
out there. And
ask any new agent. I mean, we had a new agent on the team recently who I think lost his first client or her first client. And it was like devastating. And I'm like, dude, I've been there, done that. It sucks. And I'm going to empathize with you for about 5 minutes. And then we're going to move on to our next client who's going to treat you better or whatever, you know?
I always say if you aren't losing a client or a deal, you aren't doing enough business.
Yeah.
It's just part of it.
It's just part of it.
You cannot get away from it.
And that's something that you learn as you go.
Yeah.
And on the roller coaster topic, your income is a roller coaster.
That's hard.
And that is hard. It's a double-edged sword because there's no ceiling to what you can make. It's a great business to make a lot of money in. You don't need a college education. If you're really hardworking, you're honest, and you're likable, you'll probably make it. But your income is not steady for anybody. I mean, there's months, even you 20 years in, it's like, well, I made half the amount I made this month as last month, you know, it's always like this. And so it makes it hard to budget for, but you just have a real hefty savings account to get you through the harder months.
Right. Yes. At least 6 months is doable. I mean, it's recommended.
Yeah.
It should be doable, but.
Yeah. I think people maybe think once they're in it for a while and they get a lot of clients, it'll be steady. But even if you have steady clients coming in or, you know, whatever, it doesn't mean that their closings when you actually get paid will be steady.
It's a long way from having a good client that's looking for a home and actually getting paid from that client too. I mean,
3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Probably.
And first of all, you got to find them the house. There's multiple offers on it. You have to get the house. So that usually takes a couple of times, depending on what they're looking for. But most of the time there's multiple offers and they don't get the first one because they haven't been out there yet. They don't want to overpay. Yep. They're worried. They're just learning. So then you finally get them in contract and something, and then you got to go through that whole process. And they might end up, you never know.
They might cancel. They might.
So then you're back to square one. I mean, it's just a constant. But I mean, with all that said, I think that if somebody that's listening to this is considering getting into real estate, I can't imagine doing anything else.
I can't either.
I find it so rewarding. As long as you know you are going to have to work very hard. This is not when people come into our office and say that they just always love looking at houses or they want a flexible schedule, we have to explain to them then this might not be the career for them. Yeah. Because yes, your schedule is flexible in the sense that if you need to get up and go and pick up your kids from school at 3:00, you can do that. You can take them to the dentist or the doctor in the middle of the day. You can go to the soccer game on the weekend, but you really can't go to too many of those soccer games because you got to be working on. You got to
do open houses.
And your clients may call you right when you're trying to get your kids dinner or when you're trying to do something else. Or you're at a cocktail party with a friend, you're having a drink, and they call, and you probably shouldn't talk to them then. So it's just it's like you're always on. Yeah. Always on. And so, but it's great.
It's one of the most rewarding jobs ever, I think, especially working with first-time home buyers. It is so freaking special to like get them into their first home. Yeah. I love it. Really cool. I think because also I'm so close to that part of my life that I get to like share that.
Well, and you really believe in home ownership and what that can do for your future, how that can financially set somebody up in a really good position. So you're helping people like create generational wealth by buying a home. And that's huge.
Besides being like a teacher or a doctor, Realtor's up there with that.
You're like an angel.
Yeah.
An angel.
We help people make money. Wonder what a financial advisor would say about that. They're probably like, we're better than you because we help people make money.
Well, they do too.
They advise people not to buy houses sometimes.
Well, that's silly.
Anyway, that's a tangent. All right.
Well,
cool. Thank you. I knew you'd have some stuff to say.
You know, I always have something to say about everything, pretty much.
Yeah, if I put something thought-provoking out there, you'll
with my artificial intelligence. It's different podcast. Okay, well, thank you.
All right. See you on the next one.
Bye.